And then after we call it to order, Mrs. Ms. Sriracha, we can continue with that discussion.
Thank you.
I'm calling. We have a quorum, so I'm calling the meeting to order. Um, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I second that. Let me say at this point, the council person Howard. Good morning. How are you doing?
Yes, sir, Dr. Marks. Good morning to you all of y'all.
Good. We're glad to have you. And we also have Councilperson Tarasia. So we are the three board members making a quorum. Okay. Those in favor of the agenda, vote by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried. Let's take a look at number 3, discussion and action items. This is where we were, Council Lady Tarasia, and we want to continue with your discussion.
Thank you. So do you want me to kind of start off here?
Well, we can just continue if you like to.
Okay. Well, just to catch up, Representative Howard, I was stating that I'm generally in favor of the fare free for as long as it is necessary, and that I would be in favor of a reassessment periodically, and wanted to hear what you all have to say more about what the appropriate time frame is to have that reassessment and to have the board approve that the fare free system for the time being.
Yes. Mr. Howard, my suggestion is that in September, 3 months out, we take a look again, and hopefully we don't have the virus, but if we do, then we will continue with the fare free through January the 1st, and we'll take a look at it again then. And if we need to, we can extend it to the end of fare free to the end of this fiscal year, as opposed to making a decision now to go until the end of the fiscal year. That was what I felt that some of the board members were trying to push through. And so that's what we are discussing now. You have any comments on this, Representative Howard?
Well, I'm not in the trenches. I don't know what the director thinks in terms of the revenue. I mean, is it having a great impact on resources? I can understand us going through the pandemic phase, but is it a great strain on the revenue, or can we afford to continue it? That's something I don't know. Those are things that I guess the director would know.
Yes, Representative Howard, we have the entire fare free covered for 1 year because we have funds from the federal government that will cover the losses.
Okay. I mean, that's good information. I thought so.
And so you understand the economics behind this. Right now, because we're in a state of uncertainty, this is more of a socio-economic recommendation. We have a lot of riders that depend on the Comet that are low income, that ride the Comet to work. And as you know, a lot of our ridership is unemployed right now, or they've had their hours cut from work. So if we're able to remove this barrier of trying to generate income from those who truly need us the most, and turn around and be able to grow our ridership and get us into a better state of normalcy, then I think it'd be appropriate to charge fares. But this is more of a community service effort to win community will of our residents. and just give something back to the community in light of what's going on.
Okay, that sounds good to
in
me.
addition-
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Representative Howard.
Well, no, I mean it sounds good to me. I mean the fact that the way the director just explained it, and we have the resource, I think it'll be a good gesture to continue on, and like you said, until the end of the year, and then reassess it at that point.
That's right. We were thinking about, well, some of us were thinking about taking a look at it again in September, and we will continue to take a look at it every 3 months. Not that we will discontinue Fare Free. We want to continue with Fare Free, but at one point we need to share with the community, and we can do this by putting up the shield and have the riders enter the bus through the front. Then they will know that sooner or later we're going to start collecting fares. And even if we continue this through January 1st and need to start collecting fares, the message would be out there that we're going to resume collecting fares. And if not, we have the funds to continue Fare Free for the remainder of this fiscal year, or next fiscal year.
Right.
Dr. Morris, I would ask, though, if you can consider 3 months is too soon. I'm still awaiting quotes for barriers, and once that is finalized, it has to go through the committee process and the board approval, and then I'm being told it's going to take 120 days to 180 days to even install. So I think January would be an appropriate time frame for the first review, but you will not have barriers, I can tell you this today, based on the 3 companies in the nation that provide these barriers. You will not have barriers by September.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, knowing that, why don't we shoot for January 1st? And it's nothing etched in stone. The board can change our minds at any time.
Agreed. I think that would be the appropriate time for a review, because by then, board would have taken action on buying barriers, a purchase order would have been issued, and around the December timeframe, we can start going through the committees with an update on how Fare Free was working, how the barriers have been working, and then get a decision if we want to continue into Fare Free in January or collect fares in January.
That sounds like a
I
good
think-
recommendation. Do you need a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay.
But do you want to finish reviewing, before you do that though, did you want to finish going over the budget and then just do one motion that takes all those things into consideration?
Sure. I think that works for me.
I
if it
think
works for
some
everyone else.
board members have some, from all the comments that I got back, I think collectively from 4 board members, there were just some questions on other items in the budget. And I think, Dr. Morris, you had some things you wanted to talk about as well?
Yeah, but can I say?
That's right.
I'm gonna have to get off. Right at 10, so we can kind of deal with the issues that's kind of important. And
Definitely.
the meeting that would help me.
Well, why don't we go right to the comments from board members,
Okay.
and then we could go through the budget. We can give us analysis of the budget after 10 if need be.
Okay.
Well, I would
my
appreciate- as for me, I would appreciate an efficient meeting too, since I have other obligations today. But yes, we can absolutely. I'm happy to move forward as quickly as we think is appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to summarize these comments, Dr. Morris, quickly?
Would you go ahead and do that, please?
Okay. So starting with Ms. Mood. Ms. Mood has stated that she supports the Fare Free system and that she would like to have a review of the Fare Free system. She has also made comments about the projected employee pay raises, that she states that they're budgeted at 4%, which is accurate. It's 2% cost of living, 2% merit increase, depending on how well that employee performs. And that ultimately that she felt that the budget was well thought out and was pleased to go ahead and recommend approval of that. The next comment is from Mr. Leaks. He disagrees with the comment of fare free. He does agree that we should still do fare free days. He would like to see us use the COVID-19 CARES Act fund money to buy 1 million N95 masks, do temperature checks on the buses before boarding, and purchase and then have an assistant ride every bus before boarding to do these temperature checks. My comment to his comment on the fare free, I think we've already resolved that, but I agree that we should do a review in December and see where we are. I believe that we should purchase barriers, and we'll come back to the board to consider that. I disagree with him that we should have an assistant riding the buses to do temperature checks. It will slow down the bus, and it will cost $2.3 million for us to do that, to put a person on every single bus. And I just don't think that's an efficient use of federal dollars or tax dollars. But I think installing barriers is mindful, and purchasing masks for our customers is mindful. And we'll actually be purchasing masks this fiscal year and implementing a mask policy that will be bringing before the board later on this month for consideration.
Mr. Andrew, could we respond as you go from board member to board member?
Yes, of course, please.
In Mr. Leak's case, I think that it would be quite expensive to have a monitor on each bus, and also checking temperature. That could create a problem too, in terms of folks just don't want you to check their temperature. But on the other side of the coin, I think that we should revisit this periodically.
Definitely, and that's where that COVID-19 ad hoc committee comes into play, where we can bring best practices from what other transit agencies are doing for them to discuss and vet, and then ultimately make any recommendations to the board.
Yeah.
But I'll just tell you that I just don't think it's a wise move to just put monitors on the buses unless we get into a situation where we have to do something like that. But I'm not hearing that we need to do that at this point.
Yeah, since he made a suggestion, I wouldn't say we're against it. We just continue to take a look at it.
Evaluate it, yes. That's a fair analogy.
Yeah, Mr. Ando, I agree with you that even though those sort of no-touch thermometers are fairly quick, it would significantly slow down the bus movement, and I just don't think it's a good payoff, especially if we can keep the buses to a number where people can distance themselves from each other. So those are my thoughts on that. Could you give us just an idea of what the price on the mask situation that we're buying will be? And also, have we seen, just anecdotally, you can share, are people generally wearing face coverings when they're getting on the bus?
To answer your first question, we are getting estimates right now. CARTA has implemented a mask policy, and they're buying masks right now. So once we have those quotes, I can share with that to you and the rest of the board members via email.
Okay.
FTA is going to be donating 1,000 masks to the Comet, and we are waiting those masks to come. So that would be part of the pool of masks that we would distribute to the community. On your second question, can you ask that second question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. So, anecdotally, because in my day job, we do ask that folks wear a face covering when they come in, and we see, probably one person a day who needs their own face covering that we provide for them. So I'm kind of wondering what you're seeing on the bus. Are people generally wearing their own face coverings when they're out, or are people mostly getting on the bus without them?
My observation is I'm generally seeing it, and I know Ms. Gleason made the comment yesterday when she went out and riding, she saw a lot of people wearing face coverings as well. So I think there is a demonstration in the community of proactiveness, and really us providing the mask would address that small percentage of people that either can't afford a mask or refusing to wear a mask or just doesn't have the ability to get a mask.
Yeah, and frankly, sometimes I found myself out yesterday and forgot to bring it with me. So, you know,
innocent mistake, yeah.
If I could just add on, yes, Mrs. Bleeden did mention that, and she's a bus rider. She rides the bus almost every day, and I was pleased to hear her say that most of the riders do have masks. And since the virus, I have not ridden the bus, but my observation, there are quite a few riders wearing masks.
Yeah.
So the next comment is from Mr. Smith, and he basically stated that he's mildly adverse, though, but persuadable to change his mind on fare-free policy and principle. He did mention of the environment that we're in. COVID-19 continues to be a concern, and the default position is fare-free, but we should be continuing to monitor that decision. That we have a significant amount of federal CARES Act funding to help weather our storm, and thinks it's reasonable to pass some of that funding to the riders in the form of free or reduced fares in the purpose of restoring and regaining ridership, and then that we can always amend the budget to include fares, say, like January 1 if the situation warrants. Basically saying we don't have to be ideological committed to fare-free structure in order to pass a budget that assumes free fares because of the coronavirus. He supports the compensation structure, that it should be 2% COLA and 2% up to 2% merit. I was incorrect. I said 6%, so I apologize on the confusion. I thought it was a 2% COLA and up to 4% merit. But when I reread the compensation policy and got clarity from our CFO, she basically said it's up to 2% merit and it's a 2% COLA. One thing to note for the committee, the CPI rate as of March is, I believe, 1.21% as of now, when we were looking at that. He felt that the professional fees were reasonable. The largest portion is for engineering and for planning projects, and this correlates the board's emphasis on building new shelters and facilities for riders and the overall master planning for the transit system. And he said he's an advocate for security in the current form. While there are many concerns, concerns among the board on the quality of security before the local police department was involved, it seems like now that those concerns are about cost. He says we can't have it both ways. He believes police riding buses and present at the facilities are creating a common presence and should be a part of the overall community policing model that seems to be proactive than reactive. It's an opportunity for public entities to work together. Any comments on that? Okay. Dr. Morris, you asked for information on salaries for 2019-2020 and 2020-2021, so we provided that information.
Yes. Let me share with you my concern. Being advocate of paying the ED well for the work he does. When we hired the ED, the ED asked for $90,000+ for salary, and we said that was ridiculous. We gave him $140,000. That's 2 years ago. Then when I saw the projected salary, $175,000, $664, although Ms. Andrew has corrected that. But then I said, gee, that's 25% raise in 2 years. The community, well, let me finish. The community is going to look at this as no one else, no CEO getting that kind of raise. But I know Mr. Andrew deserves it, but that's showing that he's getting $25,000 raise in 2 years, or 25% rather. 2 years didn't look good. So, and then I saw a 10% raise, up to 10% of his salary. And I had some concerns about that, and maybe we could talk about that now.
So, Dr. Morris, I want to make sure that it's clear. I'm not asking for a 25% raise. Quite frankly, that would be crazy, especially what's going on right now. As you know, in the contract, you guys provide incentives to the executive director based on meeting certain metrics. If you look on the salary analysis, right now I make $151,449. If the board authorized the 2% cost of living, and if the board gave me, assuming that I got a 4%, a 4 or greater in my performance review, that would give me an increase of $6,058, which would increase my salary to $157,507. So the net change would be 4%. The incentives are at the board's discretion. Quite frankly, if you didn't want to give me incentives, that's fine. If you want to give me incentives, that's fine too. But no, I'm not asking for a 25% increase, and I want to make sure that's on the record that I'm not asking for that. My contract is very clear that I get the same salary increases as the staff, and I follow the same policies as the staff. And we made that amendment to my contract back in, I believe, October of 2018.
Mr. Andrew, I'm glad you explained that, and I don't have a problem with the 157,507 because I think you deserve probably more than that. However,
no. I mean, I'm fine with what I'm getting. I want to be mindful of the public dollar.
Let me finish. However, when we put things out in writing and the public reviews this, it's like when I saw the 175,664, it raised some questions with me. But yes, pay for performance, we did agree that you get that percentage, and I think we should adhere to that. As Mr. Huggins said the other day, it is strictly up to you. He wants you to be considerate, and I am saying the same thing. We don't want to put out there too much, considering that other CEOs are not taking raises, and also, the community just have a difficult time now paying people. People not losing their jobs, and a whole myriad of things. So this was my concern with the salary. Now, I also believe that the same formula used for your salary is used for all the other salary except the 10% raise. Is that correct?
Incentive.
Okay.
I don't want to call it a raise because I try to call it incentive just so it's not perceived that it's a raise.
Okay. But we need to make sure we review this, and just like yours would be out there for 157,507, you need to make sure that all the staff members out there also not including 10% raise and all that other raises. So that was my concern.
Definitely, and we and I talked with finance on that, And we represented that analysis to make sure that that's the case, because quite frankly, the incentive is an optional thing that the board has to decide upon. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so I guess we would just need direction from the board or from this committee to recommend to the board if you want to continue with providing a cost of living this year and the pay for performance, or if you want to suspend that for the year.
I think we should do,
oh, go ahead.
in my opinion, we should do one or the other.
What do you?
I would think right now, from looking at the latest CPI figures, and I'm just being fiscally prudent in the comments that I'm making, since CPI has declined, I think it would be appropriate to just, if it's the pleasure of this committee, let's just recommend that we continue with the pay for performance and we suspend cost of living for this fiscal year in light of the pandemic.
Do we have any comments from other board members? Well,
no, sir.
I would say yes. Let's present that to the board and how much it actually would cost the board, and then let the board make the decision whether or not we want to suspend that or not.
We did that. It'll be $16,865 at the maximum if everybody was paid at the 2%.
Okay. All right. And present that.
Okay. Those are all the comments, basically, that was received from the board members.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, then could I have a motion to adjourn?
What you need to make a motion to recommend to the board.
Okay.
So if I understand, I want to make sure I get the pleasure of the committee. The appropriate motion would be recommend to the board this proposed operating and capital budget with the following caveats. One, that the fare free would be reevaluated in December of 2020 based on the conditions of the pandemic and the potential of the installation of barriers. Two, that as it relates to salaries and wages, that we would pursue only the pay for performance and suspend the cost of living increase for fiscal year 2021. Does that seem appropriate?
That is appropriate with me. What do you think, board members?
Yes, sir. That's fine with me.
What would be what would be the savings on the cost of living increase?
$17,231.
So my concern there would just be, so $17,000, while it is my salary on council, and it's not an insignificant amount of money, do you think the cost benefit analysis would be, what I'm trying to ask here is, I'm thinking about the morale boost that comes with even a small cost of living increase, and seeing how that $17,000, is it worth saving that $17,000 if folks who are showing up every day for essential workers and everyone who don't get that little bit of extra money?
Well, I guess to answer that question, we are paying a service recognition bonus this fiscal year to employees that worked in the office during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And if I'm hearing from some of the board members, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, I'm guessing they're looking at the optics of the situation.
Sure.
If governments are kind of tightening their belts, people are getting laid off.
Right.
And then if here at the comment we're presenting cost of living increases, even though when in March cost of living was, I believe, 1.81%, but now it's in the negative. I'm guessing maybe the optics is making it seem like, even though it's $17,000, maybe
Sure.
the timing is not appropriate.
Okay.
Unless the board would like to maybe alter my suggestion and we revisit cost of living during the mid-year budget to see if if CPI has changed. And then that could
I think that would be appropriate. Let's say revisit this in December.
I would accept that.
Okay, let me restate the motion so it's clear then. So the motion would be recommend this proposed operating and capital budget to the board of directors with the following caveats. That Fare Free will be reevaluated in December of 2020 based upon direction provided by the board in relation to purchasing barriers. And two, that the cost of living increase would be reevaluated during the mid-year budget review to understand the economics of the impacts from the pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Ando. I would accept that motion. Do you want me to restate it for the record as a motion?
Okay, I'll say.
I think Paige got it. You want Paige to read it just one more time?
Yes, because I was trying to take notes and didn't quite get it all down.
Okay, recommend to the board this proposed operation and capital budget with the caveat that the Fare Free system would be reevaluated 2020 based on December 2020 based on conditions of the pandemic and installation of barriers, and the salaries would be revisited in December 2020 based on the cost of the increase, a cost of living increase. Does that make sense? Can you read it again?
Mr. Andrew, you can help her clean that up a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's in essence what we're saying.
Yes, we'll clean it up and we'll send that out via email today. But we will reevaluate, in essence, we'll reevaluate cost of living increase and Fare Free based on the conditions from the pandemic.
That's correct. Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a proper move in second. Are there any questions? Those in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is unanimously carried. Are there any other discussions?
No, Dr. Morris, that addresses everything.
Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been proper moved and second that we adjourn. Those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye. And Representative
Aye.
Howard, you got 11 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, and you have a nice day.
Great, thank you. You too.
Thank you, everybody,
Okay.
for your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ando.
Okay then. Okay, bye-bye.
Let's stay healthy, wealthy, and wellness.
That wasn't so great.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to send the motion to you in writing to make sure that you got it. All right, so yeah, plan to do a mid-year review about cost of living. Let's just keep checking CPI.
So
and let's make sure we
taking a certain line, or you just checking?